The usual, sir.
Please.
Hello everyone, this is another episode of Leave It on the Floor with me, Yasmin Jolie Walsh. Okay, let's start over. I'm not going to introduce this episode in some happy-go-lucky, cute bitch sort of way. This time, as the young people would say, I'm going in on a couple of ladies today and their views on the differences between transsexual, transgendered, girls who used to be boys and now are girls. Them. So I was watching a couple of YouTube videos, one from Jolie called Crossdressers versus Trans Woman, and the second from Buns called I Don't Like Crossdressers, and here is why. So let's start with the one that feels like a kick to the butt rather than a punch to the face. Like anyone typical making a social media whatever, Bella gives her definitions of trans women and crossdressers, saying, a man who dresses up as a woman typically for sexual purposes, not always, but in her experience, typically for sexual release. Typically. Bella mentions several times that her video is for education and information, so people can better understand trans women. But there's a saying, if you want to be understood, first understand. Definitions on the act of cross-dressing can vary wildly from BDSM to fetishization to expression of femininity. It hurts to hear Bella place such narrow confines on the reason behind cross-dressing. That's like me saying the reason she transitioned was to only serve as eye candy on Instagram, or so she could walk into the ladies' salon to get her hair done. It's superficial and it lacks background. Describe the act of cross-dressing are those who are fetishists and those who are in the art of cross-dressing. So there I am, looking up Encyclopedia Britannica, because I know damn well that I don't dress up just to prove that I'm not master of my domain. I'm not telling you about Seinfeld. Look it up. Britannica says that transvestitism is the practice of wearing the clothes of the opposite sex. The term was applied to cross-dressing associated with non-heterosexual behavior, and it was also used to describe cross-dressing with the intent to derive sexual pleasure. So, two thoughts. Yes, Bella Jolie is right. Natural guys do put on girl clothing to cluck that chicken, but others use it as a means of romantic preference or how they feel. And the DSM that the psychology people use has expanded that definition to include gender identity as well. For Bella to then agree with comments that encourage the dropping the act of cross-dressing to transition is short-sighted, and it doesn't respect one's decision of how often and how far they want to express their femininity. A group of politicians, Republicans, said that everyone that identifies as female can only do so if they only wear dresses, serve men in the kitchen and in the bedroom, and leave on their makeup 24 hours a day. You bitches, saying that lovingly, will rebel. And as I was going through the comments of Bella's video, the only ones she liked Notice I continue to give her respect in using she, her pronouns. She only liked the comments about her hair. And when someone said that they started out cross-dressing, but now that they know their real being, they were beginning to transition. Isn't that bullying? Just like at me melting 26004 said, medical science wasn't available for everyone to transition, and that was double before the 80s. Or at CD Sharon 1993 said, it was taboo to even consider transitioning or finding a medical professional who could help you. Bring in all the horror stories of going to a cheap place in Central or South America for your transition. I admit, I enjoy cross-dressing for 3 reasons. I get to go against the grain of male toxicity, I get to express my feminine being, and I get to show off my ass and my legs and look damn good doing it in 5-inch heels. Now, I do have to be fair to Bella. She says she doesn't want to offend anyone, and I get it. It doesn't matter if she's being honest or not, but her video was made 3 years ago, right around COVID. Did you not have time to study more about this? And for someone who said that trans women are men who always felt like women inside and felt like they were the wrong gender, then why do you get to express your feminine feelings to the frequency you want, but it's a problem if I do it? Bella, I get that you want clear definitions, but not everyone who cross-dresses or identifies as a transvestite, like Marcus Hirschfeld said, is a pervert who dresses up in a cheap wig, puts on lipstick, some ballet flats, and waits for women in the restroom. Think deeper than that. And since you mentioned that for a time you dress for sexual pleasure, does that make you a pedophile too? And while you fairly said that societal pressure places certain people into the cross-dress category for fear of exposure, it's no reason why you should co-opt the same argument as right-wing and right-wingish gender bigots. And it's the red meat thrown out like cross-dressers invading DMs and being vulgar. But how can you tell the difference in who's being vulgar or not? Back in 2018, NPR said that 81% of women have experienced sexual harassment. You want to be a woman? Baby, you got it. She talks about cross-dressers being vulgar in DMs and not showing faces, but not those who are true fetishes. Where are the receipts? We transition and genetically modify our bodies? Well, who made you do that suffering? You made that choice. As Shawn Michaels said before his second WrestleMania match with The Undertaker, and I quote, "For every action, there's a reaction. I'm counting on it." Bella calls her episode an education, but there's also such thing as miseducation. And it's being done because you're so frustrated that society lumps you in with cross-dressers. Are you bigoted? Hypocritical? I'm black. That doesn't mean I get to completely divorce myself from the race. Why blame CDs for delays in acceptance when natural women scream at you every day that you're not one of them? You're not doing a video on them, are you? called I Don't Like Crossdressers, and here is why. From D. Honey Buns. Within 2 minutes, complains that she's receiving vulgar messages on Instagram, all from crossdressers using the tags sissy and femboy and bitch. My question, why would crossdressers swarm your page outing themselves just to throw themselves at you? Then she complains about frustrations about being sexualized.
Welcome to being a woman.
Now, to emphasize, sexualization of any sex is wrong. Nothing wrong with physical attraction, but there is a difference between a like, a preference, a bias, and an obsession. And none of the people doing this are heteronormative males, according to Ms. Honeybuns. She mentioned a few times trans women who has not yet transitioned. What makes her qualified to know the difference? Is this the Tony Stark X-Men Mutant Registration Program? If someone is showing themselves in a feminist presentation, why should you be ashamed? How did you start putting on panties? It had to start somewhere because you used the term trans woman. Then you have to acknowledge that you were once a boy who liked wearing women's panties. So is the problem that there are males who harass you, or is it an issue that you think you're better than everybody else? Once again, there's nothing wrong with physical attraction, but there is a difference between a like, a preference, a bias, and an obsession. I think Miss Honeybuns' tone is condescending from a perch made by crossdressers who did not have the modern science of widespread HRT and SRS, at least not in the most inexpensive and non-painful ways humanly possible. And in watching his videos, I can understand making the differences between CDs and TVs. That's like saying Hyundai and Honda are the same. Both are Japanese-made cars that start with the letter H, but they're completely different makes and models. But similar to the wife who blames the other woman for breaking up their marriage, both Bella and Miss Honeybuns miss the point. The issue is the husband who lacks discipline. Just like society, you can't separate the good characters from the bad. And I'll just give one more example. In college football, you have multiple divisions. You have the FBS, you have the FCS, you have Division 2, you have Division 3. Okay, players make it out of the NFL from both the FBS and the FCS. And even some of the FCS players go on and thrive. And if you just focus on the FBS schools, which is the top division, the most moneyed up football programs, there's even a chasm between the two of them. But just because that the quote-unquote Power 5 has all the money and fame and status and envy of the American sports fan, doesn't mean that group of 5 teams who share FBS with them can't beat them. It's happened numerous times. Hell, even FCS teams have beaten FBS teams. So just because Bella and Miss Honeybuns have fully transitioned and what Faith from the Gender Rebels would call full-time transsexual women doesn't make them better than us who are part-timers, either by choice or by circumstance. If you really want yourselves to be heard and want to form a community, then let's form a community. So are we good? Or are we good?